We think of education as a right, not just for the privileged, but for everyone. Yet in Lowell, less than 100 years ago, it was the bell at the mill that called less fortunate children to work. Children like 12-year-old Patrick Roddy, who worked in the spinning room, or Marguerite Bonclear, who was only 8 when she first entered the mill. And Joe Phillip, who worked until midnight for less than $2.50 a week. What lifted working people in this country to the status they usually occupy today? Who established an 8-hour day, overtime pay, and a minimum wage? Where did safer working conditions and child labor laws come from? How did workers come to enjoy pensions, paid vacations, and health care? Improvements in the quality of life born from the strength of ordinary men and women united together is the American worker's story. In New England, water-powered textile machinery brought social change. The Lowell mills promised to produce quality cloth at a fair profit for investors. And unlike mills in England, the Boston Associates offered good wages and decent housing to attract workers. Young men and women left the farm to seek their economic independence. Work days were no longer determined by the seasons, but set according to the clock by mill managers. The idyllic vision created by the Boston Associates soon faded. Owners themselves increased competition by building other mills. To maintain profits, managers lengthened the workday, doubled the number of machines a girl operated, and sped them up. When faced with falling prices and rising inventories, owners cut wages. In protest, the women began to unite. When one operative was fired for her union organizing, 1 in 6 women turned out, left their looms, and walked off the job. A strike. Not all workers supported the strike, and the mills were able to continue production at lower wages while strikers were fired and replaced. Yet their fundamental belief, a right to an equal role in determining the conditions of their employment, would be echoed by workers as industry spread across America. Steam power expanded factory production and transportation. The railroads now provided easier access to raw materials and growing markets. Demand kept some factories operating both day and night. Work was divided into simpler tasks, and machines operated by unskilled labor, mostly immigrants, replaced higher-paid craftsmen.
The mule spinners were one of the more skilled crafts, and they were extremely proud of the machines that they operated, which were physically demanding and highly complex. And because they felt this way, they were very likely to organize and ask for higher wages. So in the late 19th century, many of their employers decided that they would take care of this group of people very effectively by simply switching technology. Instead of the complicated mule spinning equipment, which had to be run by skilled male workers, they substituted ring spinning machines, which were uncomplicated machinery that could be run by unskilled workers, usually by young women who were paid the lowest wages in the industry.
Women, blacks, children, immigrants, the least organized, faced the greatest exploitation. Labor, another raw material, was expendable, as evidenced by working conditions.
In the textile industry, in the spinning room, the lint was flying all over. The people were breathing that. Those that worked in a weaving room, if you had good hearing, when you were in there for 2 years, your hearing was gone because the continuous cacophony of the machine, bingo, 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 the shuttles going back and forth.
Workers in virtually every industry formed organizations to resist the abuses of employers. They protested long hours, dangerous conditions, and low pay. But while worker resentment was strong, organizing was difficult. Those who joined labor organizations were fired, blacklisted, their names circulated among employers to prevent the hiring of union supporters.
The Boston and Maine had a strike in their Reedville shop. That's where my father worked. He was a Boilermaker. And it was a very, very nasty strike. So he got blackballed. He never could get a job at his trade again.
Oppressive conditions led to confrontations. The Haymarket riot, Carnegie Steel's Homestead strike, the Pullman strike led by Eugene Debs. With no structure to resolve conflicts between workers and management, no laws to protect workers from mistreatment, and many unemployed willing to work as strikebreakers. When anger grew, violence erupted. At the turn of the century, American business was dominated by a few powerful men who had centralized control of industry. The nearly 9 million immigrants who came to this country to work brought more than their labor. They brought ideas about freedom for workers. An Irish carpenter, Peter McGuire, and a Jewish cigar maker, Samuel Gompers, were among the founders of the American Federation of Labor. The AFL, under Gompers' leadership, organized workers through craft unions. The Industrial Workers of the World, another labor organization, believed all workers, not only crafts, had strength if part of one big union. Leaders such as Big Bill Haywood and Elizabeth Gurley Flynn organized a bitter strike in the Lawrence textile mills. Known as the Bread and Roses strike, several immigrant groups united to protest a cut in wages and to demand equal dignity. For the first time, Italian, German, Jew, French-Canadian, Pole, Lithuanian, Russian, Greek, and Turk stood together. Fear of violence led to the evacuation of the strikers' children. When armed troops intervened, public sympathy was aroused. The workers' victory signaled an awakening of the industrial worker, and successful protests followed in Lowell and other towns.
Bread and roses, bread and roses.
Following World War I, industry flexed its political muscle. As fear of the Russian Revolution gripped the country, the rights of union members were restricted. Union organizers were arrested, sympathetic immigrants deported. Union membership fell. Despite its triumph, business abandoned the Merrimack Valley community it had helped to create.
One of the most pervasive and persistent myths among just ordinary people in the Northeast is that the unions drove the mills out and to the South. What's amazing about the persistence of this myth is that Lowell was relatively late to organize in the late 1930s. Many of the mills were faced with very intensive competition in the 1920s in cotton from the southern mills and in synthetics from Japan, so that the mills were already in trouble in the 1920s and had begun to go into bankruptcy and begun to go south long before organized labor came into the mills via the CIO.
The stock market crash, American industry caught in the Great Depression. Millions thrown out of work. Citizens organized for social change. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt took office, the very structure of the American economy was in question.
Our greatest primary task is to put people to work. This is no unsolvable problem if we face it wisely and courageously.
The hopes of working women and men created a climate of political reform. The National Industrial Recovery Act, designed to put people back to work, guaranteed the right of employees to organize. The Social Security Act established unemployment insurance and old age pensions. And the Wagner Act empowered the National Labor Relations Board to prevent employer interference when workers exercised their right to form unions. Companies had to bargain collectively about wages and working conditions. The newly formed Congress of Industrial Organizations, or CIO, affiliated the soaring membership of non-craft unions, union members who now had an official voice in the terms of their employment. Industry resisted. However, strikes for an 8-hour workday and a living wage rallied community support, and government mediation led to successful settlements. Once again, a world at war. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, labor, management, and government joined together in a massive war production effort. The AFL, the CIO, and the railroad unions pledged not to strike. Productivity and union membership increased. At home, women entered the workforce. Though wage increases were restricted, many benefited from the introduction of paid vacations, insurance, and pension plans. Post-war gains for workers were challenged when anti-union employers sought limits on union rights and union political power through the Taft-Hartley Act. It was passed over President Truman's veto. Despite setbacks, working people and their unions have continued to be a voice for positive social change in America. As technology brings change to the workplace, organized labor will continue to fight for the rights of working people.
We stand on the shoulders of the past. Many of the things that we have today that are making our lives better and our quality of life better is not the result of accident.
The issues are pay equity, making enough money as a woman worker, for example, to take care of your family and to take care of yourself, child care and flexibility at work and job mobility, and getting rid of the dead-endedness of some of the kinds of jobs that service sector workers do.
Whether it's public education, pension reform, or minimum wage legislation, when unions seek change, it benefits all men and women in the country, not just union members.
Caring for the disadvantaged, voting rights, health care, safety on the job. We earn our pay through skilled work. We spend our money in our communities, and we support our country.
How will work change in the 21st century? What new jobs will be created? What skills and education will be needed? The history of the labor movement should be taught in every school in this land, said President Harry Truman. For America is a living testament to what free men and women, organized in free democratic trade unions, can do to make life better. We ought to be proud of it. The mission of the Patrick J. Mogan Cultural Center is to tell the American worker's story and to apply the lessons of the past to the challenges of the future.